Hi, everybody. I am here with a phenomenal group of folks who are willing to experiment in a crowded boardroom as we continue a conversation that we have been having for the past couple of hours about the role of young people in the world, how adults can get in their way or not get in their way, or what are we going to do about this whole United Nations thing? Do we want to keep it? Do we not want to keep it? Yaya was supposed to be on our conversation yesterday with Saji, and both Saji and being based in New York City, had Wi-Fi issues, and our friends in Algeria and elsewhere in the world had perfect reception, which I think is probably just an analogy and a reflection of the state of the world. So I wanted to maybe let's quickly go from name, title, anything else that you feel like say in like 45 seconds-ish, just so folks who are watching can see who's here with us. Brian, if that's okay.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Weiner. I'm a regional program manager for West Africa with Search for Common Ground. I'm looking at lots of different issues, peace and security and youth and climate in this increasingly really interested to hear in the discussion and the perspectives of all the people in this room. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Saji Prelis with Search for Common Ground also. I'm very interested in engaging around intergenerational trust issues.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lena. I work at the intersection between text and conflict. Is it making it better? Is it making it worse? How hard is it to collaborate and understand each other? We do with tech to make things better.
I'm just a student, but I'm going to show you all. So this is what we look like right now. Okay. All right. I'm Jenna, and I'm just curious.
Don Wettrick, educator for localize everything by making sure your high school is the hub of innovation and solutions.
Hi, my name is Mary. I'm educator for over a decade, also a graduate student of international law and peace and conflict.
I'm Mike McCabe. I'm a fourth generation youth now that I'm 62 years old. That's right. Young at heart, but old in body. 2020. Now I'm into the fourth generation. You're second generation youth, yeah. Yeah, I'm still willing to learn. Is way. I used to be the global youth coordinator at USAID, and then I was most recently worked at Peace Corps for many years, and now I run Ignite Collective Leadership.
So. Thank you very much. My name is Yahya Qani. I'm from Afghanistan, a social entrepreneur, and believer and policy advocate for youth, peace, and security. And most recently, I have been working with Search for Common Ground as an advocacy fellow. I'm a recent graduate of New York University.
I'm David Goldberg. I'm on the President's Leadership Council Group of Advisors at Search for Common Ground. And like Jenna, I am insatiably curious. I can't wait for the conversation.
I'm Stasi Batulipa. I work for Search for Common Ground on global partnerships and communications. I'm a former youth and Peace Corps volunteer, and this is a really important topic to me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Smith. I'm a policy officer with Search for Common Ground. I work on our global affairs and partnerships team, looking at kind of the critical issues our world is facing and different ways that we can rise to the challenge of meeting those. Thanks.
Okay, so who are we? I'm desperate to hear from the youth engagement from USAID now that rug has been pulled out from the world. I want to hear from that. Dan, you seem like you, though, are like really on, I would say warpath, but we're not going to use that term because it's Search for Common Ground. But tell us a little bit about, because so many young people are engaged in these spaces, what is it? What do you mean by bringing a problem back to high school and then having high school
fix it.
The question was, the school didn't get in your way, what would you want to do at this time? And a lot of our students wanted to learn how to do new skills that we weren't teaching. They wanted to solve new problems. They wanted to become YouTubers. It was right time, right place. The class was started right when YouTube started to monetize. So the class was kind of innovative in that regard, but it was open source learning because half the things they wanted to do, I had no idea. So if a student said, I want to learn how to be a YouTuber, or I want to learn how to patch quilt before my grandma dies, and I want to patch quilt with her, awesome. So being able to set a goal and understand how to set metrics and being able to learn how to fail and adapt was at the heart of the class. But more and more, we kept reaching out to other people, and more, and ironically enough, it was a guy named Daniel Pink that did a TED Talk. I reached out to him, said, will you help me? And shockingly, he said, yes, I will. But then more entrepreneurs kept getting intrigued by what we were doing, and we were reaching out to them. So like a local guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, started getting involved, and ultimately, I've never met a group of people that disliked school but loved learning more than entrepreneurs. And so they started looking at this class of like, holy shit, you give a chance to students to a chance to fail at something. And I'm standing on the shoulders of student giants. We had some students that launched things. We got some patents. But more and more, we just kept resonating with entrepreneurs, athletes, and authors. And they started getting crazy access. Long story made short, our governor asked us to start kind of something bigger. He wanted it to be a Shark Tank for kids. And I said, absolutely not, because I've been to Shark Tank for kids. It's food truck ideas and fashion lines. And I'm like, I don't want them to start a business. I want them to solve a problem. And so that was everything, because they weren't looking to sell something. They were looking for a gap in the market. They were looking for a problem. Huge difference. And then ultimately the skill set of like building a network and being able to be told your idea sucks is it's a gift. Feedback is a gift. And so our students were getting harsh feedback and learning how to adapt to that and realizing just because you have an idea, it doesn't mean it's good. And then also just building up this mentor network. And so anyway, we launched it started getting big, but then we quickly realized it was resonating with the students that their parents were already entrepreneurs. And so we started growing and scaling it in schools that I was reaching out to teachers that wanted to do more of this. And so we built like this large group of teacher Trojan horses. I need 1 to 3 teachers to be in the school, and they're the destination. So if a student goes, hey, I've got an idea, that teacher is like, yeah, what do you think? They're prodding them. They'll use class time to do it. So when I say we have this army of teachers, they do 3 things. Number 1, they get students to see problems as opportunities. Once they do that, they'll never run out of opportunities. Once you light that switch, you will listen to people complain and go, I'm on to something by just listening to people complain. Number 2, they give the gift of time, which I love, because like they don't make kids memorize. They have to get through some of their curriculum, but they allow time. And number 3 might be my favorite part we were talking about. In a day and age where we're talking about, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Factually speaking, nobody knows more people than teachers. They open up their network. So when I have a girl that goes, I need an introduction to somebody in plastic injection molding, that teacher has probably 10,000 contacts. So they're mentally going through the Rolodex and going, one of my students is now the CTO of. And so we congregate these teachers once a month online. We have in-person training at the beginning of the year, but we get together online once a month, and then we usually offer up like a thought leader, like a Dan Pink or a Robert Greene. But we also are like, what do you guys need? What students are working on stuff? How can we be a help? And then on the student side, we're in an influencer culture, so we feature about an influencer a month that they've built something, that they're not TikTok famous necessarily, but they've built, like the Savannah Bananas, the founder of Savannah Bananas, hugely popular with kids, but he's hugely popular because he built something. And that's who we're trying to get inspiration from, of like, good for you if you do a TikTok dance, but better for our group if you're like, I saw something that I thought needed fixed and I did something.
How many people know what Savannah Bananas are?
They're huge.
Most sold out sports team in all.
Okay, we couldn't get tickets, and my husband can get tickets to almost anything. It is, sorry, who doesn't? You don't.
You'll never unsee it.
So Jay, so I'm gonna give you another great example for those of you who are like, how does this Twitch thing work? So what Jay's gonna do now is she's gonna pull up, while we're on here live, she's gonna pull up some images of Savannah Banana. Savannah? Oh my God, that was embarrassing. Yeah. So she's going to pull up some clips so she can show it live in the same way that you would if you were like on CNN and they were like, hey, pull up the clip of the whatever the thing is. So she's going to pull it up. So, but here's my question for you, which I'm going to try to tee back and offer the mic to you, which is, Savannah Banana, as you know, I get a little bit frustrated with like the commitment to entrepreneurs because I'm cranky about capitalism, right? And that's what the whole Shark Tank movement is. It's just like, what is the ROI? What's the margin? Bottom line, period, full stop. I also, and this is where the land of end is, I also want as much money in my bank account as I can get and know that financial independence and financial security for primarily women worldwide is the primary bottleneck of preventing gender against women. And some of the work that we know that Search is doing primarily in Afghanistan, which is probably the basis of so much of their work worldwide. But when it came to like USAID's strategy with regard to youth, how much of it was seeding entrepreneurs, meeting the demand of young people who saw a problem and then therefore were chasing an opportunity. And now what the hell are you going to do about it?
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Right now, because USAID has been unfortunately dismantled after 60 years of making tremendous contribution. I mean, when you look at, I'm 62 years old, and if I look back at what's happened in the last 60 years in human development, more has changed in terms of positive outcomes than in all the rest of humanity. So if you look at literacy rates, we've gone from 38% of the world was literate when I was born to 89% right now. Vaccination rates, let's not go into vaccination this week, but when I was born, 2% of the world was vaccinated against a number of things. Today, about 88% of the world is. What has that done? It's brought down the deaths of under 5-year-olds from 20 million a year to 3 million a year. That means we're saving 17 million additional people each year. So what did USA do? It supported and partnered with governments and nonprofits around the world to figure out how do we improve education and health and governance and peacekeeping and democracy. But what they didn't do well was engage young people. It was focusing on really early young age and then a little bit later in your life for economic development. So the missing middle were young people and the voice of young people. But when you look at who was out there at the front lines of protests for democracy or who was out there trying to think of new ways of being entrepreneurial on things, it often was these young people that were left out. So we moved USAID over the past probably 15 years from no view on youth to looking at youth as beneficiaries of a lot of our education, health, and workforce programs, to a policy, the first policy of a bilateral organization that said youth as partners in development. And how do you get beyond the rhetoric of that? Because you could easily fall into rhetoric. Well, we worked with young people across the world to build out a platform called youthlead.org, a platform by and for young leaders. Who was a young leader? Anybody who said, I want to do something to change my community. And they could get on and they could connect with a young person in Ghana who was understanding how to transform garbage into charcoal for sustainable energy in their community, or someone who was starting a chocolate shop in Colombia that now runs the largest organization in South America to connect young people into business opportunities called the Biz Nation. And she's now one of Forbes 30 under 30. And or Imran Abuba, a good friend of all of ours, who was a student on a bus in northeastern Nigeria where Boko Haram was dragged off the bus because he didn't have his student ID. They took everyone with student ID to the left and shot them and told everyone on the right without an ID to run into the bush. He then decided to create his organization that now has 600 youth volunteers working in the heart of some of the most violent area with a budget of, Saji, what is it, about $1,500 a year, working with schools across the area in the most threatening area to build peace out of schools. And that's what youth can do. So.
I mean, it's such a casual, and there's never a good transition from a Boko Haram atrocity. But maybe I'll come to you real quick, and you can tell us what you're seeing. You can tell Twitch what you're seeing about technology's role in peace building. Are you seeing anything that you're excited about? Anything that you're particularly concerned about?
Yeah, thanks, Jenna. Hi, people online. I can't read the chat, but I just want to point out that these two initiatives that we've just heard about, they also remind us that, when we're able to see beyond the grievance, when we're able to see beyond the challenges that somebody else is to blame, that really people are able to solve problems. And very unfortunately, the outrage machine, that is the algorithms that recommend content to us, which is predicted to inspire outrage and engagement, is contorting and perverting our view of what these problems are and how much we can solve them. And secondly, they also don't necessarily equip us to feel like, hey, I want to build an alliance with someone else who might be different than me. And this is something that I'm really concerned about, because entrepreneurial and leadership and new visions of leader are not individuals. They need to be diverse teams. They need to be people who are able to, say, hey, we don't agree on everything, but we actually want to solve this problem together. So a lot of the social media today isn't giving us enough of those examples, right? So that's really what I'm concerned about, is that, there was some research done recently which pointed out that people on social media are more likely to support political violence. Why? Because Republicans believe that 40% of Democrats support political violence. And the majority of the other side believe that 40% of Democrats support political violence. And this is false. It's less than 2 to 3% on both sides. So the more time we spend on social media, the more convinced we are that I can't work with the other side. So what I, as someone who believes that it's all about the tech design, I believe that when we use tech in a good way and we think about how do we make those features, affordances, and algorithms be bridging and helping us surface common ground, that it's going to help our perception of how we see the other, and it's going to ignite a new kind of leadership where we're going to be able to bridge and feel comfortable working across divides. And that's what we call deliberative technologies and other kinds of platforms like Agora Citizen Network, Polis, places where you can have conversations that help you to listen, help you to feel safe, and are not just recommending like the most outrageous opinions.
Can you tell us a little bit about the brands that you just mentioned, Polaris? Tell us a little bit about what those are.
So some of you might remember the Occupy movement, which was like this leadership movement. And so the creators of Poll.is said, how do we make sense of a whole bunch of people who are angry about something and want to change something? And how do we listen at scale? So Poll.is for 25 years has been used around the world to listen at scale and help people to deliberate. And it's a free platform. You can go and you can use it, and you can send out a link to have different people discuss things together. And then it's automatically going to show you where is the common ground and where is the divergence, what's controversial, what are the opinion groups, and that's going to help you to say, what are we agreeing upon and what are we not agreeing upon? And it's automatic. You send out the link, people participate, and within seconds you have that report. Agora Citizen Network is taken Polis's technology and just made it even cooler to look at as a social media platform, and you can also use it in lots of languages. So Remesh is another tool that was built by a technologist who said, we don't have to build technology that divides us. Let's build technology to have us understand each other. And so this is being used, for example, around the Israel-Palestine conflict today to help people to have conversations because they can't travel and meet together in a room like this. They're filled with fear and stigma and stereotypes. So having people engage on a platform is a safe space that where people often are not revealing their identities so that they're really discussing the idea and not the identity. And that also, at moments, Jenna, can help us to see what we share and where we need to work harder in our discussions.
And Jenna, Yahia used Polis not too long ago as a way to engage over 1,000 some odd young people from around the world, including conversations around police trust in young people, trust between young people and police forces around the world too, right?
The military interventions was in 42 countries.
Yeah. Can you just quickly tell us? Yes, please. Just
Sure, thank you. The last time we used Polis, it's an AI powered tool. We use it to find out and get a pulse of what young people in different countries think, what are their common challenges now, what solutions they offer, and what they really believe in. And it was in 42 countries, 113 organizations globally. And we got some really interesting insights. It was about peace in their community, about the government, their trust on police, their needs, the resources they need, about the military intervention, about the role of young people in the community contributing, whether it's voluntarily or whether it's in partnership with private sector or with educational sector. And it was fascinating. It was enlightening. We used that to write a policy brief for the U.S. Congress, Department of State, Department of Defense, because it's also related to issue of security, and USAID. It was in December 2024, and this is how we used Polis, and it was very, very helpful. You provided really insightful data for us.
Thank you for sharing that. And we'll be sharing all of those links in the show notes. I would love to hear from the current student, right? Even though we are all self-described as constant learners, I would love to hear a little bit more about what you're experiencing on campus and what the opportunities you think might exist there, not just from the entrepreneurial space, because that's certainly one opportunity to segment certain parts of the communities that can help invest in building things together, but what's dialogue like there?
With regards to what context?
Whatever.
What's that?
Twitch is
Yeah.
very formal.
Yeah.
This is not singing it.
Yeah.
Well, so I should add that I'm actually a returning student.
Okay, great.
So it has been about a decade.
Okay.
I went to Florida to serve my local community and, to be with family, to take care of family stuff. So it's interesting seeing the difference in the campus from generation to generation. We were talking about technology earlier, and I just remember when Twitter was new, the perspective was, Arab Spring, this is going to be so easy, peace and conflict, and there was just a lot of romanticization about what technology would do and the youth and just naturally would happen versus now I think yes I was sorry. So I think now because we're forced to realize that things are complicated in every society, in every country, I feel like now the students are looking at it more realistic point of view, knowing that we do want to go in and help other countries and also help our local communities and just keep those things in mind. So it's about the only difference I would see.
Dr. Goldberg. Dr. Goldberg and I, we met on semester at sea.
Can they hear you? Do you need this?
No.
Okay. Okay.
25 years ago, and he is a high school teacher.
In part.
That's most of what takes up his daytime, but he sits on a lot of boards and is an entrepreneur himself. But what are you seeing specifically that students in high schools are craving? I would love for you to also reference the shift that you're seeing in a state that just passed legislation, so students are not allowed to have cell phones in the classroom, which is the first time ever. So sort of like this shift, is their curiosity had been spiked? Are they still so committed to being entrepreneurs for the capitalistic purpose, or are they interested in like problem solving? Tell us what's coming.
They're craving for state departments of education to get out of their way. They are craving, that means standardized testing has to go, and they're craving opportunities to be engaged in the world on a regular and continuous, I'm looking at Jenna, on a regular and continuous basis. So I run a program similar to where Don started in international affairs, genocide, and human rights, and we solve problems, and we go to the UN, we talk to leaders, and we come up with our own solutions, lots of complex ways, and they love that. And then you see that same kid in some standardized curriculum classroom where they have to take some test at the end of the year, and that same kid becomes silent, unengaged, disengaged, quiet because they're respectful and don't want to get in trouble, but they are not the same person that I see. So I hope what we can do is create opportunities like Don's doing on a larger scale, because kids are craving it. They want to be a part of it, but they're also being forced to stop because being involved with it, because a lot of what they're getting is told what's important on Instagram, on other social media sites. So I have noticed, this is my 22nd year in education, and I have noticed, sorry?
You're very old.
We're several days apart, days D, and there's just a silence. You could come, you can give an engaging presentation, you can talk, and 15 years ago they would have been all over that, and now there is this incredible silence. It's not an American unique problem. I also run an NGO and a startup in Ukraine. I see the same thing when I talk to students there. I see it in European classrooms. I'm often in German classrooms. I see this happening across the world. I just don't talk. I just let the teacher do their thing. Yet, they just this blank stare that somebody who has not been in a public classroom in the last 12 or less years, 15 or less years, would not notice. It's just this. She's gonna give an example.
Oh, easy example. Returning to a high school, this is in Florida. Back in the day, I'm sure you all know. If someone calls for you, a parent or someone's called from the office, everyone's like, or they want to leave the classroom. So I'm looking at the class and I'm like, Kimmy? And then you just get this. And I'm like, what's going on? I didn't know how to engage. I was like, Kimmy, and said the last name. And everyone's face was the same. No words were coming out. Like, I couldn't read. Everyone just blank stare. And I'm like, does anybody need to leave? Like, is it? And they're like, oh, that's her right there. I couldn't tell it was her. So it was my aha moment. I was like, there's another shift. So when I first started teaching, like 10 years ago, I was hearing from the senior teachers, like, times are changing, and I didn't see it yet. But now I'm finally seeing that. They just stare. They don't want to go to the bathroom. They don't want to leave. But what is it? I would argue the communication styles have changed. In undergrad, we were looking at nation building with digital media and whatnot. Interacting via text message, not used to responding on the fly. Just staring at a screen. You become a screen. I mean, we're used to it at performances. But if I'm talking to someone directly, like, hey, I have actually, food is the only thing where they speak up. Oh, if you have chips, they'll say, ah. But, like, do you want to leave? They don't want to leave the classroom. Even the kids who are, like, ADHD, I would love to take a walk. No, they're used to sitting at home playing video games. They're indoor cats. It's very unsettling.
We are seeing that in some undergraduate programs in universities as well right now. My wife is an advisor to undergraduate students.
Wait. They can't hear him.
What about that second mic? Is that one working yet?
It'll cause an echo.
Okay, thanks.
My wife's an undergraduate advisor at universities, and she's seen this. She's been a teacher for 27 years also. And my parents have been teachers for 50, 70 years, so I understand the teaching environment. But my wife says, as an undergraduate advisor at a huge university in Washington, D.C., that a lot of students who are coming in don't know how to communicate properly, emotionally connect and communicate. They struggle with this. This is one part of it. The others who actually do communicate, when they communicate, they are not listening enough. So those are two things that she's observing now as before, like 10 years ago when the students she was engaging with. And this is not just American, but she's taught in Ukraine, she's taught in Qatar with international students as well.
And so, I mean, I'm curious to know, I mean, you know, the anxious generation, Jonathan Haidt, is that what we're talking about here? Because he's both advocating to, you know, up the age of social media access, no phones in schools, and more outside play, and like change the parenting choices as well.
This is why I like to have localized conversations in our classrooms, because, not to keep saying it, but when you see a problem, then you can have an opportunity. Like we're always telling our students, the cheat code to getting hired. If you can just, if you can actually do an interview and look at your person in the eye and respond back, you're already in a different talent pool, sincerely. But then this is part of our curriculum, like the cheat code to getting hired right away is when they say, do you have any questions? You automatically say yes. And then you say, what are you guys currently struggling with? I like to focus on problems and see if I can execute on it. You'll be hired immediately. I see a problem as an opportunity is our cheat code. Because I don't care if you're at Subway, McDonald's. What are you guys currently struggling with? People complain our bathrooms aren't clean. I'll fix that day one. You're going to move up so fast because you're like, my mindset is on fixing things, not complaining about the boss behind his back. And those opportunities begat other opportunities. And so I'm telling my own children and then our students, if you just lean in, you're going to win. Yeah. And we've got a little funny saying, but like, unfortunately, the vast majority of people are moaners and groaners. They supply opportunity. Seekers and peakers are where it's at.
Moaners and groaners, seekers and peakers.
Listen, this is important. Seekers listen to people complain, and they seek out opportunity. Like, okay, I hear you. I see what you're doing. I love that. Peakers peek around the corner and see what's next. 12 years ago, I had students begging me to start this thing called the digital wallet. We started the nation's first esports team as a school. You could letter jacket in League of Legends at my school, which is why we've been on Twitch for a long time. Because they were peeking around the corner, like, this is really big in a couple countries. Wetrick, get on it. And so we bought, I talked to the librarian, we brought rigs so we could play League of Legends and CSGO until we had a school shooting, legitimately. It's the ability to seek out opportunities and peek around the corner. What trends are you seeing? And so if I'm telling kids, y'all don't know how to communicate, they're going to go, so opportunity me if I can look up. Opportunity me if I can engage. Opportunity me if I can start proposing solutions. And then I feel bad for everybody else left behind, and I'm trying to encourage more people, but the students know opportunity me if I can execute on things.
David, did you have more to add?
There's a great side to this too, which is at the same time, simultaneously as seeing the kinds of behaviors and blank stares that we talked about here at this table, there's also an incredible engagement with the world, which wasn't there 10 years ago, right? There's also, you can say Qatar, and there might be somebody who knows about it or wants to know about it. You can say Tajikistan or Afghanistan or anywhere, and there is this interest, but there is also this, I don't know what to do with my interest now. And public education, at least to my exposure to it, is largely not answering that question. So we are seeing solutions and ideas coming from young people. They want to start businesses. There is definitely an entrepreneurial spirit. They love this idea of, oh, I can work from home, I can build my own thing. But then there's also this silence. So it's almost this double-edged sword that I don't think the education system, certainly not in the United States, has addressed adequately.
I want to push on a question that you had, which is like, what is this silence? Is this like an apathy? Like, I don't care. I don't need to participate in the question. I'm just, if I sit here quietly enough, no one's going to notice me. Is it a, I don't want to be noticed? Like what is it? David offered an example to me probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I've used it a lot, which is he had offered an assignment to his students to print something out, a PowerPoint presentation, 4 slides per sheet. And one of his students returned the printed out piece of homework with 1 slide per sheet. He said, it's supposed to be 4 slides per sheet, go back and do it. And the student said, I don't know how to do that. And David said, well, go figure it out. Now, in my day, I would have scrolled across the menu items, file, look down, edit, try to find out where it was. And the kid just went to Google and said, how do I print out 4 slides per sheet? Which is admittedly what I would do today if I needed to know how to do that. And that there was this sense, this like inability to be like constructively curious. I'm of the belief, though, that like from an ancestral perspective, like we know how to be in communication with each other. We know how to be innately curious. We know how to problem solve together. But I don't know if we believe we have the tools to be able to do it, or that we know that we can, because we have these damn standardized tests, or we're told that we need investment in a company before we actually do it, or we're told that we need, if you're in the TikTok entrepreneur, you need 1,000 followers to be able to get a blue check to be able to go. Like, we can't even go live on TikTok because we don't have enough followers. And so, and then of course we contemplate, should we just buy followers? We can just go on. Who cares? Like, how authentic are we really trying to be here? But it still feels like I'm trying to understand what the silence. Anyone can answer.
A few of us yesterday were in a really interesting dialogue with young people about AI and its impact. And one of the things that they brought out that I thought was really on target was this kind of moment of frictionlessness in dating. We don't need to go and like talk with a bunch of people and decide who we want to date. We could swipe left, right, or now 34% of young men 18 to 24 in the United States are using relational bots. All right, so that's completely frictionless. 34% of young men 18 to 24 are currently using relational bots as part of their dating relationship. And it's growing very quickly. It's actually the fastest. You are having your relationship with a AI bot. And it's actually the fastest growing part of AI right now is relational bots for any age group. Why? Because having a conversation with people in this room or on the street in Park Ave is really like complex and hard. Trying to come to a conclusion on conflict in my country or my community or my neighborhood is really hard. It's a lot easier to sit behind a screen and like text my advisor in college than to go to their office hours, because that's really intimidating after what I went through with COVID, what I went through with this. So it's the sense of frictionlessness. I don't want friction, and I could get it by being behind a screen.
I just want to add to that because, I feel as though I want young people to be involved in how we think about these technologies. And I also think we need to have our eyes wide open about protecting children from becoming addicted to these platforms. So just to add a couple more stats, and this was from 68 countries, Global Dialogues, which is part of the Collective Intelligence Project. So 38% trust AI more than their elected leaders. 1 in 5 consider it acceptable to have a romantic relationship with a chatbot, and 1 in 10 would personally consider it. People trust the chatbots more than their elected leaders, but they don't trust the companies behind the chatbots. They trust the chatbots more than their elected leaders and more than companies. But 1 in 3 believe that their AI showed consciousness at some point. So it's like we just also need to see that there's going to be, if you ask young people how's it going with these AI relationships, many of them will say, I love it. It's great. It's sycophantic. It tells me I'm wonderful and it's helpful. And I will speak up that I have created many custom AI chatbots for coaching me, and it's been helpful. But they are sycophantic, they're anthropomorphic, and they're really being designed for addiction. And so it's not appropriate for us as adults to just allow these products to be out there for free for our kids. And it was exposed by the Wall Street Journal that Meta AI allowed in its specifications for the chatbot for it to enter into intimate sexualized conversations with kids. And it was only when the journalists exposed this that they said, oh, sorry, and they changed it. So like the companies are really seeking addiction, and it's not going to be $20 a month in a few years' time. And that's where it's tricky because like you said, I've heard you said earlier today that it's helpful. Me too. But these kids' brains are not yet developed. And it's going right towards where we're vulnerable, the frictionless thing, the psychophancy. And that's where I'm afraid.
So I think it has to do a lot with just the ease in which we're used to doing things with technology. And that's why you speak less, because they're not used to having to speak. And it speaks to like, text messages or even using the computer. When you're used to something that just instinctually knows what you want. I really think it's an evolution of humanity, and it happens with technology, which it's also comforting because we know that we go through these cycles. And yeah, we're adapting. And that's why I don't try to look at it as something negative or positive, because we're just kind of monitoring it and seeing how it plays out, because it's used in both. I had my cousin's best friend was in a major lawsuit because of the suicides with AI bots and children. But yeah, there's a lot of challenges with AI and technology, but it's inevitable. So if you can't stop something, then we don't want to demonize it too much or worry too much. But it is dangerous, I'm just saying.
But this is where education can be at its best, right? In the 1930s, there was probably never driver education in public schools. And then cars came about, and those are just moving bullets. So the schools adapted, and now everybody learns how to drive at a reasonably responsible level, somewhat, that they never had to do before because the schools did that. And they mandated, I was just going to make that example, and they mandated seatbelts. So we can do this, and I'll give you one personal example. I also do some advising at the UN, and I've taken students with me to those meetings at boardroom tables like this one here, and they're prepared, and they know what they're going to say, and they can speak out. And I usually take the quiet, reticent ones to make that happen. So I don't think it's that difficult to break this trend, Jenna, that you're asking about what's causing it. It's probably Instagram and other social media telling them what the important information is. But I think we can respond to it in new educational models, one of which we heard about today.
Two things. I love that. First of all, the algorithms will feed what we want. They can't push something that we're like, no, I'm not interested. I think the biggest, our brains literally, I like the book that you're to compare ourselves to this many people. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I just remember don't be snarky, when people with much talent started to get famous for being famous, there was a saying, we all know who they were. She's famous for being famous. What does she do? She talks about people. Well, I could too. And I saw this generation of like, well, I will do the same dance and I will do the same thing. When am I going to go viral? And this constant ability to compare yourself to other people. Normally, when you kept up with the Joneses, you're comparing yourself to some neighbors and some kids in your school, 200 people. Now it's 5,000 people and up because it's unfair that she's famous. Why can't I be? And so that comparison is the thief of joy. And we get into rage cycles where you also have a lot of people stoking the fire, hating on the people that are successful. Isn't it rotten that they're successful and you're not? And then you soothe yourself into this complacency that, yes, the world's against me. I'm overlooked. And you feel like you're comfortable in that bubble because you're validated that you are enough. Well, you probably are. Quit comparing yourself to everybody. And then that cycle continues because you're like, because as much as the kids like activism, they still are following a lot of the influencers that are being influential. And I think that's the rise of Mr. Beast was an interesting thing of like, he became an influencer that was the exact opposite of influencers. So ironically, you're in this cycle of either comparing yourself and wanting to be better or comparing yourself and feeling bad about yourself. But no matter what, you're constantly, comparing yourself to other people at a standard that's extremely difficult.
We've seen it before, though, television.
Yeah.
And
Personalized.
yeah.
Not as personalized.
Yeah, and it's not only the comparing to so many people, it's also that the problems of school bullying does not end at the schoolyard gates. It used to stop when you walk out the door at 2:15, and now it continues. And I don't necessarily mean bullying as in a full physical activity. It could be the sly comments. It could be posting a small photo. So when those things used to not have any teeth after the school day ended, it's 24/7 now. And so I think the collective effect of everything we're talking about may be the ingredients needed to create that apathetic blank stare that so many of us have seen.
It's interesting. We're here the week of the United Nations, and they should be talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, these 17 goals that all the world was going to agree to do away with poverty and improve universal education, everything. There's another conversation going on here, and that'll follow on next week, called the Inner Development Goals, started by the Swedes and the Norwegians and a number of others, but around the world, they said, we won't reach any of those goals until we look at these 7 internal goals to human development, which are communication, empathy, connection. And they said, if you don't start with the inner development goals, you can't get.
Who's doing that?
So there's a movement called the Inner Development Goals, and there's people.
I mean, not
Yeah.
shocking that it's coming from the Nordic countries,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Which is, they're like, everyone needs to start with these social emotional skills to be effective. And basically, I saw the evangelist for OpenAI speak yesterday at DevX, and she was like, all AI is a mirror of each one of us to make you a superhero. And it'll make you a superhero if you want to do good or if you want to be a hater and evil. I disagree with her. That's assuming that there's not a algorithm that has been programmed to addict you to everything on any of these platforms that will take you down rabbit holes that isn't your true self mirror. And so I disagree with that. And I think what the inner development goal focus does is it gets us back to like making sure that prefrontal cortex, which allows us to connect, not be like animals of our, we started our first 24 years with the amygdala, which is about fight or flight. That's what drives us as young people. That's why we took risks when we were 16. And then by 24, the prefrontal cortex, which is the social command center, comes in, and we make a little bit more rational judgments. But right now, MIT and the Lancet Commission have shown the brain doesn't light up. It doesn't create new connections when we are using AI right now. I use AI for all sorts of things. I think there's great ways to use AI. But if we use it to replace critical thinking and connection, we're doomed.
Okay, so really casual. In the last 5 minutes, frankly, we haven't heard from you. I don't know if there's anything you're dying to contribute to the conversation. But, Saji and I are very interested in what new things can be built. I love the analogy of in the 30s, we didn't teach driving in schools. And so now what is the new thing? I'm, again, so thrilled to hear about the inner development goals. I'm embarrassed that I haven't. But I would like to bring it back to peace building and like New World Order-ish. If anyone can take that leap for me in the last couple of minutes, I would love to hear from anyone else from Search down there. If you would like to, it sounds like you want to, but if we can try to get back to, peace building and fixing the world, awesome. Great. And then you haven't spoken, we'll go to you and then you can close us out.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Francisco Leja. I'm here because I'm a board member for Downs Foundation that started up. And I've been able to travel around the world, and I spent about 3 decades in the military doing some development work, which I think it's timely, the question that is being asked at the table. And it really, to me, and some of the experiences I've had, it really boils down to the environment and acceptable behavior that people mimic, whether it's a blank stare that we're talking about with a technology phenomenon, or you're in the military and you adapt language and communication styles that replicate radio procedures. So, I've seen a range of those things in the environments, the countries, and the communities that I've been within. So I think that what it really boils down to for an alternative for violence or decreasing of violence is to be able to provide gateways or pathways as young as possible in communities that are doing the 7 habits that he mentioned right now, that are being able to extract principles of what good humans should be and be able to intersect that with the technology at different type of capabilities. And what I mean by that is I've been in environments where people have used technology in a different way without cellular signal, for example. They're still using cellular phones through billboards, through using, for example, different modes of transportation where there's no roads, using rivers, for example, to be able to build businesses. But the point here is to be able to marry the technology with the 7 habits as early as possible in the model to provide an alternative is very important.
Would you kindly mind passing that down there? And then a strong swivel of the camera.
Sure. I'll say something really quickly, right? Like I sit in my professional life, right, as a policy advocate looking for how we can tackle some of these biggest issues. I'm also a mom of 3 little boys under the age of 4. And so, I'm looking to see, hearing all of this, I'm just sitting here petrified, right? But I think that one of the areas that I am given hope by as consuming the media, the social media that I am as a parent, there is a lot of resources out there for parents in terms of how do we build these skills in a way that there wasn't before, right? It's about, how do we look at the deficiencies of how we were raised in terms of emotional, negligence, or was it, kind of overachieving, or all of these different things that may come through. And I think a lot of those resonate with the peace building principles that I espouse through my professional work and that I believe are needed. And so I think that and there's millions of people that follow these accounts and these psychologists and things like that. And so I think there's, maybe it's more of a question than an answer, but just, how can we marry up, where there is connection on social media with people to hold these spaces, to hold these values, to bring this into the lives and the practice of people who don't call themselves peace builders, but know that they want to teach their children differently than they were raised. Yeah, I'll end that there.
Wilbur, do you have any final thoughts before we? Fortunately, it's someone from Search who has all the answers.
Yep.
I don't have all the answers. No. I mean, I do think it's important to be ground truthing ourselves. 2024 was a year of elections across the world. Incumbents lost, primarily to populists. Democracy is on the decline. A lot of people, even in democratic countries, are not happy with the system. And for me as a peace builder, these grievances and the polarization that we see driven by some of these social media algorithms is a recipe for more violent conflict. I really do see that. So what do we know is the antidote? We know that where people feel like they have a voice, where what they say matters, they trust their governments more. So my call is for leaders within government and leaders beyond government to help us to practice and get comfortable with listening to each other and coming up with some decisions and feeling that there is trade-offs and feeling comfortable with that. Because if we do so, we're gonna have positive experiences, small ones, that will grow again our trust, that will feel like we matter. And I really do have a lot of empathy for people in government today. It is hard to govern, right? It is hard, people think facts matter. They don't. Evidence that you're really delivering on what you promised, it's gonna be just ripped to shreds by some influencer. So again, how do we use technology to practice listening to each other, making some decisions, putting those into action telling everybody, look, thanks to your participation, we made this decision. Small ways we can actually build our trust again, both vertically with our leaders and across these societal divides. So I am hopeful, and I really see it happen time and time again, but it's not yet at the scale we need to prevent some imminent violence coming our way.
So on that note, a quick thank you to everybody who joined in this conversation. As always, Saji, who seems to be carrying the heaviest torch on behalf of hosting these conversations in untraditional spaces so that many people can see. There was a lot of people who were quoting a lot of the things that you were all saying. No overwhelmingly profound questions, but people were certainly resonating with some of your sound bites. So thank you so much for offering them. At Landban, we are interested in having everyone come on, and if you have ideas that you want to spread, this is quite a large microphone, and we would love to have you all. Obviously, a big shout out to the person behind the camera, Jay, and thank you all for joining. We'll see you on the next Land of And Twitch tomorrow at 11 a.m. Thank you, Saji. There's Saji for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, what an interesting conversation, and it was all really clear, and the audio was great, and a lot of.
What was anything from
It was it was just like the 34%, the relational chatbot. That's going to be the thing. There was a lot of those kinds of things that people were saying, which I think feels like there's the sexy element, and then there's the like we don't know what's happening. You know, there's like something a little bit edgy about it. So.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit more when you talk about education.
No, but we will later.
What are you talking formal, informal, non-formal? What's the breadth and the diversity of education? Because often education is seen as the formal